What does it mean to be strong in a world that rewards weakness? This question haunts our modern age, like a shadow cast by our own choices. We live in an era where comfort is king, where the path of least resistance has become the highway most traveled, and where the very notion of mental fortitude seems as antiquated as handwritten letters. Yet here we stand, surrounded by unprecedented prosperity, technological marvels, and endless opportunities, wondering why so many feel empty, anxious, and fundamentally unprepared for life's inevitable challenges. The truth is both simple and profound. We are witnessing a silent epidemic of weak minds. Not weak in intelligence, not weak in creativity, but weak in the ancient art of resilience. Weak in the capacity to endure discomfort, to sit with uncertainty, to face adversity without crumbling. This weakness isn't a character flaw, it's a learned behavior, a cultural inheritance that we've accepted without question. But here's what the ancients knew and what we've forgotten. Strength of mind, like strength of body, can be cultivated, developed, and mastered by anyone willing to do the work. If these ideas speak to you, consider joining us here, where each reflection builds a stronger, calmer mind. This isn't just about consuming content. It's about transforming the very foundation of how you think and respond to the world around you. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his personal journal that would become the Meditations, never intended his thoughts to be read by millions. He was simply a man, albeit an emperor, wrestling with the same fundamental questions that plague us today. How do we maintain inner peace in chaos? How do we respond to criticism, failure, and loss? How do we build a mind that serves us rather than enslaves us? His answer was deceptively simple. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But what does this ancient wisdom mean in our hyper-connected, instant gratification world? Consider this. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. We've created a culture where our attention is constantly fragmented, where our minds are perpetually seeking the next dopamine hit, the next distraction, the next escape from the present moment. We've become addicted to comfort, to ease, to having our every desire met with the swipe of a finger or the click of a button. And in this pursuit of endless comfort, we've inadvertently weakened the very mental muscles that our ancestors spent lifetimes developing. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology is only beginning to rediscover: that our capacity for happiness, peace, and fulfillment isn't determined by our circumstances, but by our response to those circumstances. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest philosophers, taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This wasn't mere philosophical speculation. This was hard-won wisdom from a man who had every reason to be bitter, angry, and defeated, yet chose strength instead. But let's be honest about what we're facing today. Mental health statistics paint a sobering picture. Anxiety disorders affect 40 million adults in the United States alone. Depression rates have skyrocketed, particularly among young people. Suicide rates have increased by 35% since 1999. These aren't just numbers, they represent millions of minds that have lost their way, millions of people who feel overwhelmed by life's basic challenges. The question isn't whether we have a problem. The question is whether we're willing to acknowledge the root cause and do something about it. The root cause isn't external circumstances. It's our relationship with discomfort, uncertainty, and challenge. We've created a culture that promises us that life should be easy, that we should always feel good, that any form of struggle or discomfort is a problem to be solved rather than a teacher to be embraced. We've medicalized normal human emotions, pathologized natural responses to stress, and created an entire industry built on the premise that we should never have to feel uncomfortable. But here's what the ancients knew. Discomfort is not the enemy of a good life. It's the forge in which strong minds are created. Seneca, one of Rome's greatest philosophers and advisors to emperors, deliberately practiced voluntary discomfort. He would sleep on hard floors, eat simple foods, and wear rough clothing, not out of masochism, but out of wisdom. He understood that by voluntarily embracing small discomforts, he was building his capacity to handle life's inevitable larger challenges with grace and strength. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, Seneca wrote, and this truth applies perfectly to our mental development. The end of our addiction to comfort marks the beginning of our journey toward genuine strength. The end of our need for constant validation marks the beginning of true self-confidence. The end of our fear of failure marks the beginning of real growth. Think about the last time you faced a genuine challenge, not a manufactured crisis or a social media drama, but a real test of your character and resilience. How did you respond? Did you immediately seek escape, distraction, or someone to blame? Or did you pause, breathe, and ask yourself what this challenge might teach you? The difference between these two responses is the difference between a weak mind and a strong one. A strong mind doesn't mean an aggressive mind or a closed mind. True mental strength is characterized by flexibility, not rigidity. It's the bamboo that bends in the storm rather than the oak that breaks. It's the capacity to remain calm in chaos, clear in confusion, and compassionate in conflict. It's what the Buddhists call equanimity, the ability to maintain inner balance regardless of external circumstances. But how do we develop this strength in a world that seems designed to weaken us? The answer lies in understanding that every moment presents us with a choice. We can either strengthen our minds or weaken them. Every time we choose to sit with discomfort, rather than immediately seeking relief, we build strength. Every time we choose to think deeply, rather than react impulsively, we build wisdom. Every time we choose responsibility over blame, we build character. The ancient practice of negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum as the Stoics called it, offers a powerful tool for building mental resilience. This isn't about being pessimistic or expecting the worst. It's about mentally preparing for challenges so that when they arise, we're not caught off guard. By regularly contemplating potential difficulties, losses, or setbacks, we build our capacity to handle them with grace when they actually occur. Modern neuroscience supports what the ancients intuited. Our brains are remarkably plastic, capable of forming new neural pathways throughout our lives. This means that no matter how weak or strong your mind feels right now, you have the capacity to change it. Every thought you think, every response you choose, every habit you cultivate is literally reshaping your brain. You are not stuck with the mind you have. You are actively creating the mind you will have. Consider the concept of hormesis, the biological phenomenon where small amounts of stress actually make organisms stronger. This principle applies not just to physical fitness, but to mental fitness as well. Just as muscles grow stronger when subjected to resistance, minds grow stronger when subjected to appropriate challenges. The key word here is appropriate. We're not talking about overwhelming trauma or unnecessary suffering, but about the kind of manageable challenges that stretch our capabilities without breaking them. The epidemic of weak minds isn't just an individual problem. It's a collective one that affects our families, communities, and society as a whole. When we lack mental resilience, we become more susceptible to manipulation, more likely to make decisions based on fear rather than wisdom, and more prone to seeking simple answers to complex problems. We become consumers rather than creators, followers rather than leaders, victims rather than agents of our own destiny. But here's the beautiful truth that the ancients understood and that we must remember. Every single person has the capacity for mental strength. It's not a gift reserved for the lucky few or a talent you're born with or without. It's a skill, like reading or riding a bicycle, that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. The only question is whether you're willing to do the work. The work isn't glamorous. It doesn't involve expensive courses, exotic retreats, or complicated techniques. It involves the daily practice of choosing strength over weakness, responsibility over blame, growth over comfort. It involves learning to sit with uncertainty without immediately seeking answers, to face criticism without immediately defending yourself, to experience failure without immediately giving up. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, wrote, "The sage is guided by what he feels and not by what he sees." This wisdom points to the importance of developing our inner compass, our ability to navigate life based on principles and values, rather than external circumstances or social pressures. A strong mind is one that has developed this inner guidance system, this capacity to remain true to what matters most, even when the world around us is chaotic or confusing. The paradox of strength is that it often appears as gentleness. The strongest minds are often the quietest. The most confident people are often the most humble, and the most resilient individuals are often the most compassionate. This is because true strength comes from a deep understanding of our own capabilities and limitations, a clear sense of what we can and cannot control, and a profound acceptance of life's inherent uncertainty. In our age of information overload, one of the greatest challenges to mental strength is learning to think for ourselves. We're bombarded with opinions, analyses, and interpretations of every event, every trend, every development in our world. The weak mind simply absorbs these external perspectives without question, becoming a passive recipient of other people's thoughts. The strong mind, however, learns to filter, question, and synthesize information, developing its own understanding based on careful observation and reflection. This doesn't mean becoming closed-minded or rejecting all external input. Rather, it means developing what the Stoics called the discipline of assent, the practice of carefully examining our thoughts and beliefs before accepting them as true. It means asking questions like, is this thought helpful? Is this belief based on evidence or assumption? Does this perspective serve my growth or limit it? The ancient concept of memento mori, remember you will die, might seem morbid to our death-denying culture, but it's actually one of the most powerful tools for building mental strength. When we truly internalize the reality of our mortality, many of our daily worries and anxieties reveal themselves as trivial. The criticism that seemed so devastating, the failure that felt so permanent, the rejection that appeared so meaningful, all of these shrink to their proper size when viewed from the perspective of our finite existence. This isn't about becoming nihilistic or fatalistic. It's about gaining perspective, about understanding what truly matters and what doesn't. It's about learning to invest our mental energy in things that actually deserve it, rather than wasting it on petty concerns and imaginary problems. The epidemic of weak minds is also fueled by our culture's obsession with safety and security. We've created environments where children are protected from every possible harm, where adults are shielded from every potential offense, where entire institutions are designed to eliminate risk and discomfort. While the intention is good, the result is often the opposite of what we hope to achieve. By removing all challenges and obstacles, we inadvertently prevent the development of the very skills needed to handle life's inevitable difficulties. This doesn't mean we should seek out unnecessary hardship or ignore genuine dangers. It means understanding that some degree of challenge, uncertainty, and even failure is not just inevitable, but necessary for growth. It means teaching ourselves and others that we are more resilient than we think, more capable than we believe, and stronger than we feel. The journey from a weak mind to a strong mind isn't a destination. It's a daily practice. It's the choice to get up when you fall, to try again when you fail, to remain calm when others panic. It's the decision to take responsibility for your responses, even when you can't control your circumstances. It's the commitment to growth, even when growth is uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In the context of mental strength, the best response to a world that promotes weakness is not to become weak ourselves. The best answer to a culture of victimhood is to take responsibility. The best reply to a society of instant gratification is to develop patience and persistence. Every day, you have countless opportunities to strengthen your mind. When you feel the urge to check your phone for the 100th time, you can choose to sit with that discomfort instead. When someone criticizes you, you can choose to listen for any truth in their words, rather than immediately defending yourself. When you face a setback, you can choose to ask what you can learn, rather than who you can blame. These small choices, made consistently over time, compound into something extraordinary. A mind that serves you rather than enslaves you. A perspective that empowers you rather than limits you. A character that inspires others rather than drains them. The ancient Stoics had a beautiful concept called the view from above. The practice of imagining yourself from a cosmic perspective. Seeing your life and challenges in the context of the vast universe and the flow of time. From this perspective, many of our worries and fears reveal themselves as temporary and manageable. This isn't about minimizing genuine problems or dismissing real pain, but about maintaining perspective and avoiding the trap of making temporary difficulties into permanent identities. As we near the end of our reflection, remember this: the epidemic of weak minds is not inevitable, and you are not powerless to resist it. Every moment of every day, you have the opportunity to choose strength over weakness, wisdom over ignorance, growth over stagnation. You have the power to build a mind that can weather any storm, navigate any challenge, and find meaning in any circumstance. The path isn't easy, but it's simple. It requires no special equipment, no expensive training, no perfect circumstances. It requires only the decision to begin and the commitment to continue. It requires the courage to face discomfort, the wisdom to learn from failure, and the patience to trust the process of growth. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." In our context, it's not the person who faces challenges who is weak, but the person who refuses to grow from them. It's not the individual who experiences difficulty who lacks strength, but the one who sees difficulty as evidence of their inadequacy rather than an opportunity for development. The epidemic of weak minds ends the moment you choose strength. It ends when you decide that your thoughts, responses, and character are your responsibility. It ends when you embrace the ancient wisdom that true power comes not from controlling your circumstances, but from mastering your response to them. It ends when you understand that every challenge is a teacher, every setback is a setup for a comeback, and every moment is a new opportunity to build the mind you want to have. You are not a victim of your circumstances, your past, or your current mental state. You are the architect of your own mind, the author of your own story, the creator of your own strength. The tools are available, the path is clear, and the time is now. The only question that remains is this: will you choose to be part of the epidemic, or will you choose to be part of the cure? The choice, as it always has been and always will be, is yours.